Hey guys, I'm April from Giggle Glitter Graphics, and today I am working on a new journal. I'm really excited about this project. It is going to be a little more freeform and a little less themey than my usual journals, so I'm excited to share this with you. I'm starting off by dyeing the backs of my printables with some food coloring and dish soap. I'm just blowing bubbles with a straw into that water. It's kind of a ramekin sized dish. I've got 10 drops of food coloring, a couple drops of dish soap, and I'm just dipping my papers right into those bubbles. As it dries, the edges kind of get darker and you get kind of a nice dyed splotchy effect. It shows up a little less on coffee dyed paper, but overall I felt like this is a really nice start to what is going to be a pirate themed spread. Now you might notice I'm not working with a full journal here. This is 3 sheets of coffee dyed paper that I have stitched together with some embroidery thread. And I'm going to be adding these little mini signatures into a full journal later on in the project. I wanted to be able to do things like dyeing this paper and kind of manipulating and working with the pages more without having a cover get in the way. Now I've got some of my blue splotches over my background, and I've just printed out a sheet of digital paper from my Pirates kit, my Pirates ship kit, and I've torn some of it and I'm going to glue it onto the corners of this spread. I made sure that I glued the edges down really well. I'm using my Oohoo glue stick, a little bit of vintage photo distress ink on the torn edges, and then I'm just going to trim those up with my scissors to make them neat around the edges. At this point, I noticed there is a little buckling on the back sides of these pages, so I grabbed my bone folder and tried to smooth everything out as much as possible. I'm not after perfection, but I did want to smooth some of those creases out. So this kit does have a strong pirate theme, but it has a magical fantasy lean to it. Most of my new kits are going in the fantasy genre with lots of extra little journal entries and things like that from the characters that are in the kit. So this one does have an encounter with mermaids, and there is a mermaid tuck included with the kit. Here I am just using some brush markers to add some little waves across the pages to kind of bring those two panels together. And then I'm gluing my mermaid tuck on 3 sides and placing it down on the left-hand side. I'm just overlapping all of the doodles and the paper. Next, I am grabbing the pieces that I bubble dyed the back of earlier in the video. And these are all from the same sheet in the kit. It is a complete pocket tag project. There is this flip up pocket tag, a large pocket, a smaller pocket, and a couple pieces of ephemera that can go into this. And I'm just gluing it straight down on the page as a point of interest. And I'm just overlapping those torn papers and building up my layers. As I was assembling this tag, I knew I wanted some kind of closure on this that was a little more interesting than just putting a Velcro dot on the bottom of the flap. So I grabbed a piece of scrap fabric from my table. I'm gluing it wrong side together so that I have that pretty yellow print on both sides, and I'm just cutting it to the right length. I then decide to make it a little more narrow and fold it over itself so I can make a point on the end. Once I get the length and the shape of the fabric exactly how I want it, I lay out a couple of dots. I'm going to punch holes with my Crop-A-Dile. It's at the 3/16 setting, and I'm going to set a couple of eyelets. I do use the Crop-A-Dile brand eyelets. I think that they close nicely on the back. They look nice and even, and they are not sharp. The Crop-A-Dile did punch through this fabric pretty well, and it is an upholstery fabric doubled over, so I was pleasantly surprised with that. I do have some raggedy edges, but I don't mind that. I think it adds a little texture to the page, especially since I'll be adding some burlap later. I don't mind kind of a frayed edge look. So I'm just going to use my Fabri-Tac and glue that directly onto my flap, and I'm going to come back later and fix that up a bit so it's not just plopped onto the back side of that. Next, I grab a journal entry from the kit. There is a full page of these with 5 or 6 different entries detailing the adventure of this pirate and their crew. And I end up gluing that down as a second pocket over my tuck. I'm then going to grab this little border stamp and add some more texture to the top and bottom of the page, as well as my little journal entry. I feel like doing stamps in threes and kind of moving that texture around the page draws the eye around. I had some map theme washi tape on hand, and I thought that would be a nice way to start building up layers on this page. And I went with angles on this. Everything so far that I've laid down is kind of straight up and down or side to side. So I felt like I needed to start getting a little cattywampus in here. Things were too rigid and too straight. I've noticed that my fabric is dry and everything is attached well, so I'm just going to get one of these little Velcro dots and attach it right to the tip of my fabric strap. I did have to get some Fabri-Tac to glue these dots to the fabric itself, but they stick straight to paper really well. For a quick cluster, I have a treasure word from the kit, as well as some dark brown burlap. I thought that would look nice over my map washi tape in the top right hand corner. Just going to glue that down really quickly with some Fabri-Tac. Once I'm sure everything on my pocket tag is dry, I can add my ephemera elements. Now, I did use my blow dryer to dry the backs of these, and when I did, I blew them directly into the sink in my bathroom, which was kind of wet, and so I have some smeared ink. But since we have an ocean water theme, I wasn't mad at it. I don't mind a little smear or a little blob here and there. I think it actually adds rather than detracts. For my tuck, I grab a couple of journal cards from the kit. I'm going to round a couple of the corners on the boat card. And for the larger card, I get some dictionary paper and tear out the definition for ocean and just kind of add that to the top corner. I wanted to build up some little layers on this journal card instead of just using them as is. To keep building those layers, I grab another word from the kit. I chose seafaring to go with my ocean definition and my compass, as well as a scrap of really iridescent fabric. I think this was left over from a dragon costume my sister made for one of my nieces. But I love how pretty it is. I have a little sandwich bag full of this, and you're probably going to see it pop up quite a bit. It's my current favorite fabric scraps. So I'm just going to tack that on right over my definition, and I feel like that's enough for that tag. Moving back to the boat tag, I just grab a scrap of coffee dyed paper, add a little bit of vintage photo distress ink, and glue a little strip on the bottom. I'm just going to trim that up, and then I go into my stamp stash and I found this arrow stamp, and I thought it made me think of the arrow on a compass or direction, so I just stamped the pointy end of the arrow onto the card. To finish these off, I'm going to distress ink all around the edges, front and back. I did not do any dyeing or anything extra on the backs of these. I'm going to tuck them into my mermaid pocket, finding a configuration that I like the look of, and those are done. Now I'm going to revisit my washi tape. I feel like I need some more layers here, so I got a couple more washis from my stash to put on there, plus some rhinestones. I had these 3 kind of marquee shaped rhinestones, and I thought that they went really well with the mermaid, kind of a sparkly foof there on the washi tape. At this point, I think I might have been able to call it quits, but I decided to do another cluster on the bottom right-hand corner. I have this sparkly ribbon, which was a thrift store find, so I just cut off a little piece of that. I punched this coral patterned tuck with my circle punch and just got a little piece of that. I thought it was a nice, interesting piece. And then I'm going to revisit my dictionary and get the definition for the word pirate. I briefly considered adding another rhinestone to this cluster, but I didn't want the pages to get too bulky and the other side to be hard to decorate, so I managed to restrain myself this time. For a final touch, I decide to do a little handwriting. Now, my writing is not the neatest, though I do love it. It has kind of its own personality. I am writing the phrase, "It's not about charting a course, it's about following the wind." And that's it for this spread. If you are interested in the pirate ship journal kit, you can find a link to that in my Etsy shop down below. If you like this video and want to see more, please like and subscribe. I'm going to continue working on this journal, and it is not a single theme journal. I am going to just do whatever I want on each set of pages and find some joy and some freedom in that. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.